Imagine you've got a dangerous tear deep inside your stomach or your intestines. Now, for years, fixing that meant one thing: major open surgery. But what if? What if a doctor could go inside your body, find that hole, and patch it up all without making a single big cut? Well, today, we're going to dive into the incredible world of endoscopic technology, where surgeons are literally becoming internal mechanics for the human body.
Okay, so here's the game plan. We'll start by really understanding the problem, these dangerous holes in the gut. Then, we'll meet the tiny but powerful tools designed to fix them. After that, we'll see how well they actually work, and finally, we'll look at what this all means for the future of surgery itself.
All right, so first things first. What exactly is the problem we're trying to solve here? Well, we're talking about a really serious medical emergency that can be lurking inside the gastrointestinal tract.
Okay, so the fancy term for this is a transmural defect, which basically just means a hole that goes all the way through the wall of your digestive tract. And they kind of come in three main flavors. You've got sudden tears, called perforations, you have leaks, which can pop up after surgery, and then there are these chronic, nasty tunnels known as fistulas.
And look, this isn't a small problem. We're talking about a huge deal. When that gut wall is breached, everything inside can spill out, leading to severe infection, maybe abscesses. It becomes a full-blown medical crisis. So sealing these holes and sealing them fast can absolutely be the difference between life and death.
All right, so how do we fight back? Let's meet the first line of defense in this internal battle. They might be small, but trust me, they are mighty. The endoscopic clips.
You know, these clips have actually been around for a while, but man, have they had a serious glow-up. They started back in the 70s as pretty simple tools, but now they've evolved into these super sophisticated single-use devices that can rotate 360 degrees and have jaws wide enough to tackle much bigger holes. It's just a fantastic story of constant innovation.
So how does this work? Well, the doctor guides this tiny, closed clip all the way through a channel in the endoscope. Once they're right at the tear, they open the jaws, grab the edges of the tissue, pull them together, and then snap. They deploy the clip to lock everything in place. It's this delicate, high-stakes procedure, and it's all done by remote control. Pretty amazing.
And this is a great way to see that not all clips are the same, not by a long shot. On one hand, you have the standard through-the-scope clips, or TTS clips. They're nimble, they're great for smaller jobs. But on the other hand, you have the over-the-scope clips, the OTS clips. That's the heavy-duty hardware for bigger problems.
Now, the OTS clip is a total game changer. You see, it's mounted on the very tip of the endoscope itself. This lets the doctor actually suction tissue up into that cap and then deploy a much larger and stronger clip. It grabs the full thickness of the gut wall, creating what's called a serosa to serosa seal. It's kind of like welding the tough outer layers of the gut together for a really strong, watertight closure. But sometimes, even the most powerful clip just won't cut it. For the biggest, most complex holes, you need to call in the specialists. And that's where endoscopic suturing comes in. Devices that can literally sew you up from the inside.
And right there, that's the key advantage. Think about it. A clip is always limited by how wide its jaws can open. Suturing? It has no limits like that. A doctor can place as many stitches as they need to close a massive hole, getting a true, full-thickness surgical repair.
And here it is. This is the incredible Overstitch system. It's basically an entire suturing platform that attaches right onto a special endoscope. It lets the doctor control a tiny curved needle driver, passing a needle and thread through the tissue. They're essentially operating a tiny little sewing machine deep inside your body. It's just mind-blowing.
So you might be wondering, how do they get a good grip on slippery internal tissue? Well, the secret weapon is a special tool called the tissue helix. It's this little corkscrew-like device that gently twists into the tissue, letting the doctor pull it into the suturing device. This is what makes sure the needle gets a really deep, strong bite into the tough, muscular layer of the gut wall.
And just like a surgeon in an operating room, the endoscopist isn't limited to just one kind of stitch. This isn't a one-trick pony. They can create simple running stitches for a long tear, or they can do more complex patterns, like a figure of 8, to really cinch a hole shut. They can tailor the repair perfectly to whatever the defect needs. It's truly internal surgery.
Okay, so this technology is obviously amazing. It's incredible. But the big question, the only question that really matters, is does it actually work? Let's take a look at the data on how well these devices actually heal patients.
So the results here tell a really fascinating story. For fresh, acute perforations, those sudden emergency tears, all of these technologies are incredibly successful. We're talking success rates right around 90% or even higher. That is a home run. But then, look what happens when we shift over to chronic leaks and fistulas. The numbers drop a lot. These older, more established wounds are just much, much tougher to heal, and they remain a huge challenge for doctors.
Let's just stop and think about that number for a second. 90%. What that means is for 9 out of 10 patients who come in with a sudden, potentially catastrophic tear in their gut, doctors can use one of these clips to completely avoid major open surgery. No massive incision, less risk, and a much faster, less painful recovery. That is absolutely revolutionary.
So why the big difference? Why are these chronic problems so much harder to fix? Well, it's because the tissue itself is the problem. In a chronic fistula, the tissue is often scarred, it's inflamed, and it has a really poor blood supply. That just makes it incredibly difficult for real, long-term healing to happen, no matter how good the tool is. So let's zoom out. When you put all this together, what does it tell us about the future of medicine, about the future of surgery?
All right, so let's boil it all down. The bottom line is, we are in the middle of a minimally invasive revolution. We've gone from simple clips to what are basically internal sewing machines. We're getting incredible success rates for acute injuries, and that fundamentally changes things for patients. Less pain, faster recovery. The next great challenge, the next frontier, is cracking the code on those really difficult chronic defects.
And that's what's so exciting about all this. This technology doesn't just change how we fix one problem. It changes how we think about accessing and repairing the entire human body. It really leaves us with a fascinating question to think about. If we can already do this, what's next? What other parts of surgery are ready for their own revolution?